Okay, we are good, Val.
Thanks, David. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming tonight. I'm going to call to order the May 20th, 2021 budget meeting at 6:02 p.m. Before we get started, let's take a roll call to see who all is here. I am here. Kate.
Here.
Melinda.
Here.
Deborah.
Here.
Suhei. I don't see her yet. Okay, we'll keep an eye out for her. Mike.
Here.
Thank you. Kyle. Okay, no Kyle either. Stephanie.
I'm here.
Thank you. Mark.
Here.
Brad.
Present.
Awesome. And Narce cannot join us this evening. Okay, if everybody could please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, would someone like to make a motion to approve the May 20th, 2021 agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda for tonight.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote. I'm a yes. Kate?
Yes.
Melinda?
Yes.
Thank you. Deborah?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Kyle's not here. Stephanie?
Yes.
Thank you. Mark?
Yes.
And Brad? Thanks. Okay, can I get, well, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the May 13th, 2021 meeting minutes. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote. I'm a yes. Kate?
Yes.
Melinda?
Yes.
Deborah?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And Brad?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna scan real quick and see if Suhei or Kyle were able to join us yet. Okay, I don't see him. Okay, at this time, I'm gonna go ahead and turn the meeting over to Eileen, who's gonna respond to some of the questions that people had throughout the week. And if we have any more questions or comments for her, now is a good time to bring them to her attention. Thanks, Eileen.
Thanks, Val. So tonight we had, over the last week, several really great questions that came up. And tonight I'll go over those questions and a little information about the legislative revenue forecast that came out yesterday. Feel free to ask any questions as we go through, and definitely let me know if you think of something that I might have missed or you still have questions on. So the state revenue forecast came out yesterday, and overall it was really positive. There wasn't anything significantly negative in it. All of the revenue across the state is increasing. The state has an extra $1 billion as compared to the March forecast. And most of that, their total statewide reserves is going up to 18.2% of their general fund revenue. It's a good place to be in. Their corporate activity taxes are up. Their student investment account projections are up for the next biennium. And then the kickers are projected to hit for both the personal and the corporate. The corporate kicker does get dedicated to K-12 education for the next biennium. Overall, it's really positive. We won't know until the upcoming weeks on how it's actually going to play out for the state school fund. but it does likely secure our position at the $9.3 billion state school fund. There's potential for a little bit more than that, but I am reserved for much more than the 9.3 billion, just because of the feel that school districts have gotten a lot already with the general revenue and with all of our federal stimulus money and all of the additional things that we got, and we were held harmless this year. So it's really positive for us for the $9.3 billion state school fund. Pretty confident on that at this time. And we'll find out more again in the upcoming weeks as they start to work through all the details. One of the questions that came up last week and in conversations with budget committee members this week is the concern for the additional staff that we're hiring, whether it's one-time staff, it's temporary staff with one-time funds, or if it's longer-term staffing. And so I pulled out 4 of the bigger buckets that we have FTE or staffing related costs coming out of between this year and next year's budget. Our Student Success Act is long-term funding. It's primarily going to be stable going forward. Overall, there's about 38 FTE that we hired either now or are planning to hire moving into next year. The ESSER 1, 2, and 3 funds, those are all temporary funds. Those are one-time temporary positions that we anticipate hiring. Included in that is the facilities tech, somebody to help us with filter replacements and air quality across the district for a year. And then the health room isolation IAs for buildings. And then there's going to be some level of direct services to students. ESSER 3 requires 20% of that grant to be direct services to students. That plan we're still working on and finalizing, so I don't have an FTE number next to it. But I did want to let you guys know that it's out there. Then we have 2 FTE for NAMS intervention. Those were originally anticipated out of SIA funds, but in balancing the budget in SIA, we pushed those 2 FTE to ESSER 3 to be funded from that 20% direct services to students for the year. And then once SIA if SIA grows farther than what it is now, those 2 positions would then go back into SIA is the goal. And then the last one in there is the 25% match for the summer enrichment and credit recovery. That is all one-time funds. It's going to be primarily blue timesheets. It's not going to be long-term staffing. And then the last bucket of FTE that's new this year is during this fiscal year, we hired 8.8 FTE, or we allocated 8.8 FTE across the buildings to help with supervision and COVID related response. Those all expire June 30th of this year, and those were all temporary positions. So those will not roll forward and are not included in the 21-22 budget.
So I have a question, Eileen, on the ESSER funds, the NAMS intervention. So I guess my question is, that didn't make the initial cut in the SIA or Student Success Act funding. I mean, that's what it looks like. Is that correct?
Right. It's something that we had in as priority 1. It's something that we really wanted to initiate and start this year. But when we started looking at the allocation ODEs given for SIA, we had to do some reductions. And this one, instead of reducing what we're going to do with SIA, we're going to use those 2 FTE out of ESSER 3.
Okay, so I guess my only concern is that if those are temporary funds, that we somehow find a way to at least have a strong conversation about how to move those NAMS interventions back into permanent funding. So.
And that's definitely the first priority, is to get those back into SIA.
Okay.
The other kind of factor there, Mark, is that ESSER 3 is really around some of the interventions. Right. They want us to spend that money on interventions, which is why we felt like that was appropriate.
Right.
And the hope here too is that the intervention aspect of this isn't going to be needed forever.
Okay.
That could phase out, but certainly it's not going to phase out in a single year. So we have some work to do here around this.
Okay, thanks.
The other part is ESSER 3 goes through September of 2024. So those positions could be funded for 2 years under ESSER.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions on the FTE, whether they're long-term or temporary positions? Okay. Another question that came up, there's a lot more information on this slide than what I'll go over, but is the community schools distribution and what percentage do we transfer and distribute over to the Forest Grove Community School, and if we've done an audit recently of that. Just a little background, the state's minimum requirement of pass-through is 80%. From 2010 through 2017, we passed through 85%. And then in 2017-18, we evaluated that and we increased it up to 88%. And then the following year, we did another reevaluation and maintained the 88%. We do maintain a portion of that at the district level instead of passing it through to the community school, because we do provide some services, specialists and support for students on an IEP, and then some other smaller contracts or smaller services, but primarily it's supporting students on an IEP at the community school makes up the difference. Any questions on the community schools distribution? Okay. The David Hill property purchase came up as a question on what funding source we're using for that. And so a little background on the David Hill property purchase. We got board approval back in October. We finally get a close on that property purchase this month. So it's really exciting that we are finally gonna have that done. There is an option for us to provide an opportunity for the city of Forest Grove to purchase up to 2 acres of this for a future city park. At the time that we decide to develop in the future. So it could end up at 14 acres in the long term, but overall we have 16 to start with. This is gonna be in the budget book. You'll see it under the Debt Service Fund 315. And we're gonna be utilizing construction excise tax resources to pay the down payment on it and to maintain the month or the annual debt service payments moving forward. So it's all going to be funded from construction excise tax, primarily. And then the last slide that I have here, there's several questions that came up were specific to line items within the budget. So I did want to acknowledge those questions and go through them a little bit to give everybody the responses. In the budget book under function 2210, object 420, or in the curriculum budget control code, you'll see an increase of $1.2 million. And that's where you'll see that literacy adoption. In function 2210, there's an increase in travel costs of $23,000. And that's a placeholder to support all of the new FTE that's coming in over this next year, and to be able to provide them intra-district mileage to hop between buildings and help support multiple buildings at once. Another question was, where are the new counselors going to be funded from? Those new counselors, there's 8.0 FTE, and those will be funded from the SIA grant funds. The contingencies and the ending fund balance function 6,000 and 7,000. Those two functions combined total our ending fund balance, the $7.1 million ending fund balance. So if you're looking for that, you have to add both those functions together. There's an increase in NAM's athletic budget control. So the budget control summary page within the budget document, that increase includes both stipend COLAs football helmet gear and repair, and then officials costs. And then the second to the last one is there's an increase in function 1111 390 professional services, and that's the cost of our employee assistance program. And finally, the last one is function 2310. We do have a $200,000 placeholder put in there. It's the school board's function. And this is to support the district in the bond planning, outreach, polling, and engagement costs over the next year. So those are all of the questions that came through this last week. So I guess I would open it up to see if you guys have any other questions, or if there's something that's still out there that you guys would like answered.
I think, Eileen, I'll go ahead and kind of ask each member if they have a question, just because we're not in person, and that way we make sure that nobody had something. So is that okay with you if we do it that way? Okay. Kate, did you have anything for Eileen?
No, I'm good. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Melinda?
No, I'm good. Thanks.
Deborah?
No, I'm good. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And Mike?
No questions, just appreciate how the information was presented. Thanks.
Great, thank you. Stephanie?
No, thank you.
Mark?
Yeah, just for Eileen, I know, Eileen, you just had it on the screen, the literacy adoption. Is that on page 38? Am I seeing it under, is it under curriculum? Or am I seeing it? Or?
Yeah, so that is the one of the places you'll see that in the book is the curriculum budget control code.
Okay.
And that's increasing by 1.267 million.
Okay.
1.2 million of that increase is that lit adoption.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah.
And okay, and that's going to be done next year, right? I mean, that's all spent next year, right?
That's the goal.
Okay. Geez. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I know they're expensive. Okay.
I think the one thing that always catches my eye on that one is there's also an increase in revenue too, to offset, even though there's an increase of $1.2 million in expenses, there's also an increase in revenue that is located in here somewhere, which shows us drawing down some money out of the ESD.
Okay.
Are you good, Mark? Anything else?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
All right, Brad, you're up.
I have no questions.
Are you sure?
I'm good.
Okay, that's great.
Well, I have another question.
Okay, Mark.
Sorry. So
I yield to Mark.
So I know Eileen said that, you said, Eileen, you don't think the schools are going to get more money, but let's just say they do. How does that affect this budget? Does it depend on what percentage we might get that we have to re-look at the budget, or how would that work if that happened?
It would provide us more revenue, but I wouldn't necessarily change the budget approval for the max appropriations. I think at this time I'd wait to see how enrollment comes in, because that might take or offset some of that. And then I would also consider conserving for the second year of the biennium, depending on how big of a change that is. So if it goes from 9.3 billion to 9.4 billion, but if it goes a lot higher than that, then we can always come back to the board for reappropriation of the increase in revenue.
Okay, that's what my question was really. Yeah. If it was significant, how does that work, right? So it's board reappropriation. Is it budget committee coming back together again, or not just board?
It would be, unless it goes over a certain percentage, it would just be the board. Okay. If it goes over a certain percentage, then we would hold a public hearing, and then we would notify everybody on that.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Mhm.
I think the other conversation there, Mark, is also with more money, there was some, I think Eileen's right, is we need to look at the enrollment. There was some trimming that we did. It wasn't much, but there was some. I would look back at those kind of school-based FTE. Those would be one of the first places I think we would look to see, do we have the right distribution of teachers and students? But we're not going to really know that until we start to see some of the enrollment.
Okay, all right, right.
I do have a comment now, Val, if that's all right. So I would support that, especially with the enrollment concerns coming up into next year. If there was any extra, I mean, if there was more revenue, I would support just maintaining the budget and hunkering down for that second year if we could, just knowing that enrollment's going to be a real concern for next year.
I would agree with Brad. And what is our reserve at ESD?
This 1.2 million brings it down. I don't have the dollar amount right in front of me, but it brings it down fairly deep. But one of the things we were talking about is, because it took us 3 years to build it up to this, is that if we could do it like every few years, we could draw it down to be able to do like a adoption or some kind of a larger project. But this one brings it down considerably. I don't have the answer though.
So we're doing the reading adoption, the money's coming out of the ESD reserve fund.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that was a great question, Mark. Thanks for bringing that up. And I agree with Brad as well. Hi, Miley. Thanks for joining us. We just got done going over the budget and we're going to get ready to see if we're ready to vote on it. But glad to have you here. Okay, so if anybody nobody has any more questions, I guess my next question is, do you guys feel ready to approve this budget as it is presented? Yeah, give me a thumbs up or a yes. All right. Okay, so I think maybe it might be easier if I just make the motions and then somebody seconds it. So
Val, real quick, there's no public comment either, because I would like to give you that if there was any before you voted. We haven't received any public comment.
I even have the agenda in front of me. Thanks, Kathy. I missed that one. Okay, thanks. I appreciate that. So I guess actually Eileen's got it up. If somebody else wants to make the motion, I'll go for first. I move to approve the 2021-2022 budget as presented. Can I have a second?
Second.
All right, thanks, Brad. I'm a yes. Kate?
Yes.
Melinda?
Yes.
Deborah?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes. Sorry.
No worries. And Mark?
Yes.
Brad?
Yes.
Okay. On to number 2.
You get Deborah?
I did get Deborah. She said yes.
Okay.
Okay. I move to have the permanent tax rate on ad valorem taxes of 4.9142 per thousand be applied to the total property value determined by the Washington County tax assessor. Can I have a second?
Second.
Great. I am a yes. Kate?
Yes.
Melinda?
Yes.
Deborah?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And Brad?
Yes.
Okay, number 3. I move to levy the ad valorem taxes for debt services at $6,757,413. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. I am a yes. Kate?
Yes.
Melinda?
Yes.
Deborah?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And Brad?
Yes.
All right. So all 3 motions pass. And the budget will now come to the school board, I guess, at one of their future meetings. I do want to say thanks to everybody that's a part of the budget committee. I know that you guys are all busy people and you have to take time out of your own lives to come and help us out with this. And we really appreciate it. All right, if there's nothing else, I'll go ahead and adjourn at 6:26 p.m.
Okay, I would just say one more thing, and that is that I appreciate I get a chance to look at the budget document itself, and I have noticed, I mean, there's been discussion about the format of the document, and I thought it was really good this year. So really well done, and thanks to Eileen and your staff, Eileen. So
I would make one other comment that, Eileen, that was a good job. We've gone through a lot of budget meetings over the past years, and that was a good presentation. All the questions were answered. You did a great job.
Yeah.
Okay, I told her earlier that we're very lucky because she's the best.
Yeah.
I'll say it publicly too, so everybody knows as well. All right, thanks everybody. And Kathy, I'll really adjourn it at 6:27.
Okay, got it.
Okay.
The board will adopt it on June 14th.
Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks everybody. Have a good rest of your night.